And that's the contrast, Matt, right? You're talking about Jennifer McCabe, seemingly cool as a cucumber.
Who is Jennifer McCabe? Well, it was pointed out today to the jury that she's the sister of the woman that owns the house.
So that's, I think you're right on here with what her role will be, how the jury perceives this woman, Jennifer McCabe, because I've heard it many times on many podcasts and other places. She's in the middle of all of this, right? And the folks who are supporting Karen Reed believe she's the villain.
I'm actually stunned to see the defense going this far down this road to where they're calling her a liar already, and they're trying to question her actions at the scene, and they're going as far to make her this kind of sociopathic villain that it's really hard to believe that she could be that way. So if she goes on the stand and doesn't come across as that kind of an arch villain, it blows the whole defense strategy and risks turning off the jury.
But that cross-examination, you know, that's probably one of the big moments in this case for the defense will be Jennifer McCabe on the stand and either Alan Jackson or David Yannetti trying to bring that out. Because we know the direct will be soft. It will be, you know, just tell us what you saw, what you heard, and it'll be predictable. But that won't be.
And she was brought up in a different way today.
How?
You know, through the video.
Oh, through the video. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that was also, I just wanted to fill a little bit on that. So in that video there, what they don't tell you is the time. So it's 6:34. At that time, you guys may not know this, but John is long gone. He's already in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, possibly even at the hospital, okay? It's 6:34, and they stop it right before she goes in the house. But she goes into the house and up to the second floor and wakes up her sister and Brian Albert. And so
they're asleep.
They're asleep, and that's why she went into the house at that time. But they give you the impression, during the defense does, that they're going in that she's sneaking away to go in there while everybody's trying to save John at the scene, and that's not the case. John is gone.
He's gone already, taken by the EMTs. Okay.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay. How is everybody? Wanted to talk to you today about Karen Reed and the Karen Reed trial and how the message and the movement is like the monster. So I was listening to Jennifer Koffendorfer from Breaking the Case talking about it and how this case is so different for her and why her audience is so amazed that she will absolutely concede no points for the defense. And she was trying to talk about how this case is so different for her. And for me and my channel, the only way that this is really very different is that we're seeing a innocence fraud campaign happening before the trial even began. And one of the most vicious, psychopathic, cruel campaigns attacking John O'Keefe's family, attacking witnesses, attacking people who originally started out on Team Karen Reed in the most vile, disgusting way. Talk about doxing. I mean, if we're talking about doxing, this is so much worse than any kind of doxing. This is the presentation of really personal documents, private and adult photographs and videos, harassing victims' families, booing them. So I think that should be your first clue that if Karen Reed were not responsible for John O'Keefe's death, then why is she conducting her campaign in this manner? Why is she trying to intimidate anyone on the other side? So on this side of things, we'll talk to the other side. We'll say, this is why we feel that way. This is the evidence that convinces us. It's her own statements. It's all, but why all the untrue propaganda from the 227, phone search, which really happened at 6:23 and 6:24 a.m. Cellbrite expert is going to testify that 2:27 was really when her browser was open. Then there's all her own statements. Then it's, where is John's shoe? It was found. It's in evidence. Everyone relax. And then yesterday, the defense is making a big deal. Did you see 47 pieces of taillight in a nor'easter? Oh, you really didn't? Did you guys see the visibility in those videos? So if you're not understanding why I'm not on board with the Free Karen Reed movement, then you're really not getting my channel, because I'm not on board with harassing witnesses. I'm not on board with harassing people who were once in the Free Karen Reed movement. I'm not on board with booing and heckling the victim's family when they come in the courtroom. And if you're okay with it, I think you've really lost your moral compass, or maybe you never had it. So for all those people saying, oh, I loved your Adelson coverage, what happened? I ended almost a lot of my Adelson coverage with victim impact letters. And there's a reason why, because this is a victim-centered podcast, truth-centered podcast. And I'm not on board with a lot of nonsense. And there's so much nonsense in this case from the defense. And boy, did we see it yesterday. Oh, the EMT confused a jacket for a hoodie. Couldn't believe Alan Jackson got him to admit he had a faulty memory. This woman has been caught confessing to pretty much everyone, but everyone's lying except Karen Reed in this case, right? That's what we're supposed to believe. Why? Because they all have never met Karen Reed, can't even identify her in among these three women who were at the scene, but can't even pick her out from Carrie Roberts or Jen McCabe. But they all just dislike her somehow so much that they're all going to make up the same consistent story, the same words. Either I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. This is my fault. This is all my fault. I hit him. But Alan Jackson, that was creative. Didn't you all hear? It's like those Beatles records if you play backwards. And you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of those. Have you ever gone on those channels? So he's asking this officer if he heard Jen McCabe say, I left him there or something. And something, it's my boyfriend. I left my boyfriend and I came back or something. Alan Jackson is asking Officer Sarif this. He's like, I don't hear it. It's like one of those channels where they talk, those seance channels where they talk to the deceased. and it's like with these like machines that make wobbly noises, and they'll put the words down below what you're supposed to hear. Talk about influencing the witnesses. But I want to start out with a pretty interesting interview by Kevin from Yellow Cottage Tales with Kevin J. Mahoney, defense attorney. And he says there's a reason why now so we've moved from Colin and Brian Albert as the devil in this case. Come on, guys. They were the devil. They did it. Come on. Then it became Brian Higgins. And now it's Jen McCabe telling Karen Reed at the scene, close the lip, lady. You're self-snitching. But she's God, come on, guys. She's the real killer. Everyone knows it. Come on. Because it's all a big conspiracy against Karen Reed. Because no one likes Karen Reed. So pretty interesting interview. Let's take a look at it.
This is defense attorney Kevin J. Mahoney, who's had some really insightful articles on his website about this case. So just go to his website, guys, if you want to see him. Kevin, I wanted to ask you first, and you can talk about anything, but what do you think about this defense strategy of really zeroing in on Jen McCabe?
I'm going to guess that the defense, which seems to have an unlimited budget, has been investigating her for at least the past year, 2 years. And who knows what they might have dug up on her. I would have to think that they have some.
Where did that go? Okay. We're okay. It's like, where did the video go? He's written some blogs on his website, and please excuse my voice. I'm losing it a bit. Tried to rest it yesterday. Seems to not be coming back. About Karen Reed's guilt. So what it looked like from the interviewer, Kevin so they're both called Kevin, so I'll call Kevin the interviewer and Mahoney the one who's being interviewed. So Kevin from Yellow Cottage House looked really surprised when he's so generous to this really ridiculous defense. I do not think that this was the interview he was expecting on his channel. I know he's really looking forward to it. I was really looking forward to it. I thought it was a super interesting interview, but not the expected interview. That's probably the best way to put it. Okay, let's continue on. So that'll give you like a little bit more perspective on what Kevin from Yellow Cottage Tales, his channel, was expecting. Like, this isn't going to work. The evidence is overwhelming towards Karen Reed. Instead, he's giving some great consideration. And he goes on to say that he has another lawyer friend who tells him that this could work. And it's very interesting why. Take a listen.
On her, if they're focusing so much of their attention on her. Now you would ask yourself, well, wouldn't they have to turn that over to the prosecution? But if a defense attorney hires an investigator and the investigator has something that we consider significant, we simply don't have the investigator write a report. And then we have no obligation under Rule 14 to turn anything over to the Congress. So,
and they just haven't testified.
So they might be holding something back.
That's interesting. Now this is a case though where they have leaked everything they can through a PR campaign that was extremely organized. So you would think if they had something like that, they'd probably leak it. But yeah, you could be right.
He's like, we just don't have them write a report, and it's surprise evidence, and the prosecutors can't do anything to refute it. Whereas the prosecution has to hand over everything in full discovery. So rules for thee, but not for me. Very sneaky. Tape Vault, finally catching alive. Love your coverage. Thanks, Tape Vault.
They seem to have been very strategic in what they've leaked.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a friend of mine who is in possession of what he believes to be some bombshell evidence disclosed to him in confidence. And he could not tell me what that bombshell evidence, what it entailed. But I trust this source, and he told me that if he were on the jury, he would never be able to convict Karen Reed.
Based on this bombshell evidence.
Based on this evidence. So I don't.
So So did you all hear that? Were you all listening? For those in the back, Kevin J. Mahoney, lawyer, believes Karen Read is guilty, has gotten some piece of information that the defense has some bombshell evidence on Jennifer McCabe. In this case, Karen Read's friend, who she brought to the scene, who made the search. And so this could be one of two things. This could be his friend telling them this for the defense, saying, hey, stop writing your blogs because there's some explosive new evidence and you're going to feel really dumb, right? When you're wrong, when the evidence isn't overwhelming and she gets acquitted, which I don't know why that would be so embarrassing, but sometimes happens like that, like sort of a persuasive technique to get Kevin Mahoney to change his tune or quiet down. Or there is some really explosive evidence, but what would be so explosive that my feeling is that they've been saying all along, we have this explosive evidence that they wouldn't mention in opening, that they wouldn't lead with it in opening, that they wouldn't start the jurors doubting right away. They just want to, and that's what these lawyers do. I've talked about it before. We've looked at Yanetti's ads, got another one for today we can look at. These are lawyers that, especially Yannetti, that are really specialized in getting the case dropped before it ever comes to court. And should it come to court, they're very good at destroying witnesses or tying up witnesses. I would call it, anybody seen Chicago? That kind of lawyering, really manipulating witnesses, getting them to say somehow, Alan Jackson, I thought in a moment that just enraged me. He got this really great witness, this EMT who heard Karen Read say, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Admit to a faulty memory. So faulty meaning I would have never admitted to that as a witness. But faulty meaning I thought it was a jacket and it was a hoodie. I mean, how many people have boyfriends or husbands? How much attention are they paying to clothing? Because in this house, it's like 0 to none attention is paid to what other people are wearing. So I wasn't surprised by that, but apparently the jurors are supposed to think that maybe she said something else, even though it's so consistent with what all the other witnesses, including the police officer and what we know Jen McCabe was told, and Carrie Roberts. So I tend to think it's a big nothing burger, but let's wait. And so what I'd want to ask my audience, please leave me a comment and let me know, what could they release about Jennifer McCabe that would exonerate Karen Read for you in this case? So for me, it would have to be her on video actually doing what's Karen Read is accused of. That would have to be it for me. But stuff in her personal life and distractions, I don't know.
I don't know if that evidence has been disclosed. I don't even know if that evidence exists, but I trust the source.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it hasn't been disclosed. I mean, we've seen all the evidence. I don't consider anything that's been leaked out or publicly put out in the documents or in the hearings and the motions as bombshell that shows a conspiracy.
And then as far as like the strategy of cross-examining her, she's not someone who is used to being on the stand like some of the officers in this case. So if you're going to cross-examine a witness, what you want to really start with is your most important, most damaging cross-examination material, and you want to hit her with that right in the beginning. Now, if they have something on her that they have not yet disclosed, that's what they should start with, and really rattle her. That's what I would anticipate they're going to do.
And so they'll do it on cross. So after the prosecution calls them, they'll hit her right away with that cross-examination questions and evidence that they have on her.
That would be a sound strategy. Because once a witness loses her equilibrium, the rest of the testimony, cross-examination, they're rattled. They don't perform well.
Now, if they don't have that,
See, this is why people hate lawyers for this, for the way that people like Kevin Mahoney is just saying, yeah, I would just rattle her. And then the rest of her testimony is, and that's how I would manipulate the court. This is why people do not like lawyers, and says it with just like, yeah, that's what we do. We rattle them with some totally inconsequential information to this case. And then we make them look like they're lying because they're so upset about this thing that's totally unconnected to this case and inconsequential. That's how we do it. That's how we destroy character. That's how we destroy witnesses.
kind of bombshell evidence. What do you think about this strategy? So just going on the evidence that they do currently have, which is they have their forensic data guy says that she made this search at 2:27 a.m. And that's really the only piece of evidence against Jen McCabe. It's going to be disputed by really good experts on the other side, but at this point it's up in the air and they have to convince the jury. So when she gets up there and sits in front of those jurors for hours or days, is there a chance that this backfires on the defense because they're trying to turn her into an arch villain?
Yes. I don't quite understand what their strategy is unless they're in possession of something more material that they have not disclosed. From what I understand, and just so your audience understands this, Kevin Reddington is a friend of mine. And he has told me unequivocally that she's a really nice person, a really, really genuinely nice person. And that this has affected her family, obviously, in a very tough way. He would never lie to me. So if he tells me that she's a really nice person and absolutely, positively innocent of all these allegations, I believe him. Mm-hmm. And I know that he's a top attorney. He's an incredibly, incredibly gifted trial attorney. And I'm guessing that he's probably spent some time trying to get her ready for what they might spring on her.
Yeah. All right. I mean, it's just in order for her to be presented in order for her to play her part in this conspiracy theory that they're doing, she has to have known when they sent her home that John was still clinging to life inside the house and that the plan was to put him out on the lawn alive. And to me, that strikes me as kind of an absurd theory. But even just if that is the theory, what kind of person would Jen McCabe have to be to do that? And her health app data shows that her heartbeat did not go up at all at home. Her heartbeat remained normal.
They are basically trying to portray her as the Cersei Lannister of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
When she's a suburban mother. And then the other question is, who is actually going to conduct the cross-examination? Is it going to be Alan Jackson or is it going to be David Yannetti? I think David Yannetti comes across better in front of a jury. I think that he comes across as a far more genuine person. Mm-hmm. And I would think that...
well, it's hard to come off as less genuine than Alan Jackson.
If he's going to do this to minimize the risk to his client, I think that he has to go about this in a manner that is not hyper aggressive. I think he's going to. I think he can ask really tough questions, but he should do so in at least a courteous manner, because that's going to get you further with the jury than just being harsh and analytical and theatrical. That's my opinion. What are they going to use against her? I'm guessing that they've had an investigator tailing her. Apparently, she's developed some sort of relationship with the Proctor family.
Yes.
I'm guessing they're going to bring that up in cross.
Maui Swift, thanks so much. You've gifted 5, count them, 5 memberships. Appreciate it. So Scott Robertson, kind of interesting. What he is saying here seems to be mutually exclusive. If Jen is distant of what she is being accused of, they can't really be bombshell evidence to come out. Yeah, good point. Good point. What could it be? So what I assume is like something really unsavory, but he's saying she's a really nice suburban mom. Did she have a wild past? Why would that matter? Thanks, Maui. Gifted a membership. So my understanding is those be handed out randomly in the chat.
Cross-examination.
Appreciate it.
And what else they have on her, I'm really not sure. I think that the fact that in today's hearing, we had Timothy Natale. Is that how do you pronounce his name?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that she said, I hit him.
This was the EMT. Boy, was he impressive. He got his EMT degree when he was in high school, and he just kept getting more and more, working up the ranks till he was a paramedic. So he was a paramedic, excuse me, not an EMT. I just sort of use that as a abbreviation in my head, but really wonderful witness, heavy Boston accent, always easy on my ear. Gosh, I love the Boston accent, like ASMR. Anyway, it got to be sort of a funny thing. My cousin Vinny came into it again. And I've been saying all along that Karen Reed has been using the my cousin Vinny defense, saying, did I hit him? I shot the clerk. When I hit him. Even if she said, did I hit him? Say the best case scenario, she's still leaving it open as possible. Meaning, this is in the realm of possibilities. You don't ask questions that are totally impossible to have happened.
I hit him. And so it's not inconsistent with what Miss McCabe's heard Miss Reed say to her on the drive over.
Yeah.
It's all part of the same theme. So if you can't discredit the paramedic, it's going to be more difficult to discredit Miss McCabe.
Yeah, we're going to see it.
The paramedic was terrific.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to see more paramedics say the same thing. I think there's going to be a total of 5. They're going to say they heard the same thing. And I'm not sure how many of the other police. And Kerry Roberts is going to be a powerful witness too. Kerry was not close or really friends with Jen McCabe at that time. I'm not even sure if they had met with each other until that morning. So she's not, if there's a conspiracy, she's not part of it. She doesn't know the Alberts. She's not connected to any of this. She was a friend of John's from Braintree. But she did move to Canton. But the commonality is that she had played a big role in helping John raise the nieces after they were orphaned by the parents. So Kerry was kind of similar to Jen McCabe in that way, but they were kind of each separately doing it. And Karen called Kerry that morning. And first she called and said, John's dead. And then she hung up. That was a little after 5 in the morning. And then she called right back. And then obviously we learned today for the first.
Yeah, she said, John's dead. He got hit by a snowplow, she told Kerry Roberts. I don't know if said in that first call. I can't remember exactly. But that was her original story. And I think the niece's testimony, it's going to be very interesting. I think that the John's adopted daughter, his niece, is going to be could be the heroine of this trial. Because they all loved Karen Reed. That's like a major problem with the conspiracy. They weren't up there saying, we never liked her, she's no good. We got our cop friends to say, to point all the fingers at Karen Reed. No. And what did you think of that testimony? Let me know, because I'm not sure what to make of it. By Paul O'Keefe, John O'Keefe's brother, when he says Karen Read was being held back in the hospital, yelling, is he alive? Is he alive? And all this hysterics by Karen Read reminds me of something my friend's father used to tell me about people at funerals. He said the people at funerals who are really hysterical and making a big show, watch out for them, because those are the ones who didn't do enough. That was his philosophy. I don't know. I've just been thinking about that in this. I feel like were those put on theatrics? If I had to guess, I think yes. She's a little emotionally on edge to begin with. Has a little problem controlling her emotions to begin with. But she doesn't seem to hit the shock period, or maybe she hit the shock period when she went back in the early morning hours to visit the scene before she collected Carrie Roberts and Jen McCabe. That's what the prosecution is promising us. See if they can prove it. Very interesting.
Time that at the crime scene, after they took John, Carrie Roberts took Karen away in the phone, but then the police called and they decided to Section 12 her, so they made Carrie bring her back. So Carrie spent a lot of time alone with Karen. So there's going to be some interesting testimony there.
Sorry. So I got off what I was going to ask. So in the hospital, she's asking, is he alive? Is he alive? And Paul O'Keefe says, I blew her a kiss. Meaning I blew Karen Read a kiss. Was that sarcastic? Was that aggressive? Or was that genuine? And if I had to guess, it would be genuine, right? I can't get near you. You're so hysterical. You have my love. You have my support. But other people are saying it might have been sarcastic or aggressive. I didn't take it like that, but let me know how you took it. It was mysterious to me.
Yes, I cannot imagine what Karen Read might have said to her in that car. That'll be fascinating to hear. The rumor around the courthouse, the Dedham courthouse, is that the DA believes the case is absolutely rock solid. And not everything. Now, you're a defense attorney and you're hoping through Rule 14, the obligations imposed on the Commonwealth, you're going to get all the evidence.
Right.
But you never get all the evidence. Because
Right.
the witnesses are going to testify to statements, etc., that maybe were never disclosed.
And what about the federal aspect of this? That must be something that just, as an attorney, just fascinates you. Do you have any thoughts on what's going on with the feds, how they get involved in this, what they're up to, even the strange kind of threat they made against the judge to take this over? A lot of weird stuff there, right?
I know David Yannetti. I do not know him that well. We were assistant TAs together, I don't know, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I ran into him at the Charlestown District Court about a year ago. And at that point, I knew nothing about Karen Read. I hadn't even heard about the case.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that based on that conversation, I believe that he believed, at least at that time, that his client was innocent.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to.
What does that mean? Belief. What does that mean with a defense attorney? I mean, does that mean he believes what Karen Read is telling him? Or because didn't he go up right away and said this was a tragic accident? So, I mean, that's kind of stretching the word innocent, no? That's what he was saying a year ago. That's all a tragic accident.
Disclose any more. Not that he told me this in confidence, but I wouldn't feel right about revealing any of the contents of that conversation. But I can just say that I was convinced at that moment that he absolutely believed his client to be innocent.
So he was his belief in that was that the basis for the Fed's investigation.
Okay, let's review David Yannetti. Okay, does everybody remember David Yannetti? What David Yannetti's big selling point in his advertisements on YouTube? Check out, I think it was last episode. I was reviewing them, or the episode before last. No, it's the episode before last. I was reviewing David Yannetti's advertisements. I got another one for y'all. He's saying that his big claim to fame is he had a client who confessed, signed a statement under oath, confessed to the crime, got convicted of the crime by a jury. Then he got that overturned, got a retrial, and got him acquitted. Like, this guy was they had him dead to rights. He says in this advertisement, they had a confession that the state had, meaning that they didn't throw out the confession. They used, I got the jurors like, I got the jurors to believe, you can't believe your lying ears. He didn't mean it. False confession, under duress. He was delusional, out of his mind. Clearly a miscarriage of justice. So, yeah, that's David Yannetti. So I don't know if I can take any. I don't know how deep his beliefs go in any of this.
He was,
seems like it's all a big game to him.
Is convincing enough to walk into their office and get Josh Levy to take this on.
I'm not. He never revealed any of that to me. And I would feel uncomfortable revealing the contents of the conversation, other than to say, like I said, he came across as 100% convinced his client was innocent and being framed.
Well, that's fascinating. I just, even if it's just strange to me that this federal involvement here, and I wonder what. It's going back to I don't know how close you followed this, but there's a private investigator named Brian Scanlon, or Steve Scanlon, and Scanlon showed up at Yannetti's office, and Yannetti had the private investigator there that they had working for them, and the story went out that Scanlon had supposedly heard about something that went on inside the house, but that turned out to be false. He has since testified that no, he had no information. But it was in David Yannetti's office that he heard about, for instance, the possibility of Colin being a suspect and being in the house. In fact, it wasn't until he arrived at Yannetti's house that he learned that this involved the Brian Albert, who was an older friend of Scanlon's, or an acquaintance, a strong acquaintance anyways. So I don't know. And Yannetti...
Seems like everyone knows each other in that town. Hey, Dean Walker, thanks for the super sticker. Nice to see you. Doesn't it seem like everyone knows each other in this town? David Scanlon knows the Alberts. Oh, yeah, skis.
I've spoken to Gretchen Voss, the reporter for Boston Magazine, and she said she found Yannetti suspicious. She found that Yannetti changed his story multiple times with her. I don't know if you have any reaction to any of that, but I know I don't want to get you in trouble with your friends.
That's an interesting admission by Kevin, the interviewer from to Mahoney. He says, so he's picking up that Mahoney is very friendly with all these defense attorneys, and suddenly has changed his tune, is really singing the praises of the defense when he was writing articles on his blog on how strong the state's case is and how Karen Reed was so guilty. Now he's like, well, they've got this bombshell evidence, and my friend's telling me no juror will convict her with it. And Yannetti has deep beliefs in things and his clients. He's not just say in it for the money or in it for the game of it to get guilty people off. He really believes in Karen Reed deeply. in this giant conspiracy. It's all a big conspiracy. Come on, guys. All a big conspiracy against Karen Reed. So Kevin there goes, yeah, I don't want to get you in trouble with your friends. Seems like you're really concerned with what your friends will think of you. That's what I picked up on. Sorry, Kevin, Yellow Cottage Tales, if I'm wrong about that. But I mean, I don't think that this was the interview he was expecting.
In this business, you kind of learn about the other defense attorneys and some of the things they get involved in and some of the things they stay away from. And it's always been my impression that David Yannetti is a good guy, that an above board guy. Now, with regard to this particular defense,
he's an above board guy who's leading a campaign, harassing the victim's family. Think about it. Think about it, guys. You put on your thinking caps, everyone. You've been falsely accused of Karen Reed's crimes. Okay? Think about it. And you think, and your spear, and the best thing for you to do is go after the victim's family, the victims who loved you, who treated you as part of, as a sister, as a daughter. I mean, did you see John O'Keefe's mother just weeping during opening statements behind the prosecutor, Lolly? I mean, how do you sleep at night? And Yannetti's a good guy? The guy who's behind this campaign is a good guy? I know you want to fit in with your peers, Kevin J. Mahoney, but this is some serious baloney. Let's just call it like it is. Come on. Look at Kevin's face. He's like, who am I talking to here? What interview did I get? Because is this Kevin M. Mahoney? Did I get the wrong lawyer here? I'm looking for the guy who wrote the blogs on Karen Reed's guilt. I'm not looking for. I'm looking for the other. I'm looking for Kevin J. Mahoney. Is this all a big business? Did I send out the invite to the wrong guy? That's what he thinks going on here. Look at his eyes. He's like, what? Who am I talking to? This is some serious baloney.
I don't quite understand what he's doing.
So you find it unexpected, to say the least.
Seriously, this is why people don't like lawyers. Free fuck. Boganaville says he hasn't improved my opinion of lawyers. Yeah, because they talk out of both sides of their mouth. They say things that they don't believe. They try to twist people's words on the stand to say something they don't mean or misrepresent them. That's why people don't like them. Sleazy lawyer tactics and not shooting from the hip. And go back to my interviews. Anybody watching the Jinx Part 2? I'm obsessed. So much better than the Jinx Part 1. If you like rich psychology in true crime and really how a case is built, and of course it has my favorite prosecutor, friend to the show, has been on the show 4 times, Kings of Cold Cases, John Luanne is in it. And boy, is he great. And just the whole thing is really well done. And so much richer than just a confession at the end. I know that was shocking to everyone in the Jinx Part 1 when Robert Durst confessed in the bathroom, but this is much more interesting. The psychology, who are the people who protected them? And even though I know a lot of it because I watched the trial.
I would say unexpected it would be the correct word. I would not have anticipated that he might have been involved with somebody named Turtle Boy. That's simply not the way that I've ever seen him conduct himself. I've always had the highest regard for David Yannetti. I always thought he's a
Yeah. So now Kevin's like, yeah, you're coming back to your senses. Yeah, you're kind of puzzled by this. Why is he associating? And so it's not. So if you think Turtle Boy is running the show, you're so wrong. Karen and her defense team are running the show. And they're picking people who will use these tactics and are comfortable using these tactics. So even he's confused by it.
really good attorney. On the occasions where I have talked to him, I've always enjoyed it. I've always thought he's a great guy. And most of the defense bar loves him.
So let's talk about that, using this social media as a campaign. Talk about that first from the ethical side of that, and then also from the effectiveness side of creating this whole mob that they've created over the last year.
I've never seen a defense attorney incorporate social media into a strategy as it's been done here, using bloggers and other individuals to get the message out. I am not sure.
No, it's not that. It's not a message. It's not using social media and bloggers to get a message out. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a massive harassment campaign, a terror campaign, a campaign of terror. So it works on two levels. So one, it punishes everyone who doesn't think Karen Read is innocent and intimidates anyone who could testify against her. That's why Aidan Kearney was arrested and going to trial over this. And secondly, it quiets anyone like me who's going to go on a podcast and say she's guilty, because the harassment is intense. So it shuts everyone up. And then then the media gets on board, as they always do with these innocence fraud campaigns. And it makes it look like it's legitimate and that you have to be crazy to not think she's innocent, because we're social animals. We'd like to be among the in crowd.
Is a winning strategy. I mean, I've been to the Dedham court a couple of times in the last few weeks. I've seen the supporters. Some of them are very aggressive. They'll come into the roadway and they wave their signs, and they'll scream, that Karen Read is being framed and that she's innocent. Now, if I was a juror, how would I feel about that? How would I feel about having to endure that kind of treatment or that kind of pressure each time I go into court, where I know that I'm hearing the actual evidence that these folks have not heard, and that I've got a real responsibility to make an informed and honest decision. So I don't know if that's a good strategy. I don't know if pressuring jurors, and from what I've heard around the courthouse, jurors have been followed, and or at least prospective jurors have been followed, and people, Karen Read supporters, try to talk to them. And I would think that that would backfire.
So let me ask just one last question. I mean, there's a million I could ask, and people have questions in chat, but unfortunately, I do have to take off to go to the court TV thing. But
yeah, we can take a look at that too. That's very interesting, and another great interview. These are great interviews, by the way, Kevin. From shout out to you from Yellow Cottage Tales. Really nice job on these.
some of the things that they've done risk antagonizing the judge and other aspects of the court, how much of a disadvantage could this be in the trial? Does it matter?
I believe Judge Coney is going to make the decisions that she needs to make, and I think she's going to be. I think she's going to try to be very fair, but there's a lot of judgment calls that could go one way or the other way,
Right.
and one of the reasons why you never want to alienate a judge is you don't want her making all those calls in favor of the prosecutor.
Right. And that's what you're going to see. Like, that's what I'm starting to see is a fed up judge. I mean, sometimes you can just hear her sigh really loudly. Just she's getting headaches. The defense is giving her headaches with this stuff. They're openly flouting that they're not following her rulings, and they're walking the line on so many things. Jennifer Coffindoffer thinks it's that the way that Alan Jackson is questioning witnesses is beyond leading. That she did a great show called I Hit Him, I Hit Him, I Hit Him. The link is in the description. I don't know if we're going to have time to look at it tonight. But great show, Jen, where she thinks that it's Alan Jackson testifying. She's got a point.
Right. Just like an umpire in baseball, those close calls.
All right. So I think you guys get the picture. Let's have a little bit of an interlude. I hope this is what I think it is. It's not marked. I pulled it up so I could pull it up quickly. Let's all pray that this is what I think I'm showing you guys here. Yeah. Okay. All right, I got another treat for you. Another David Yannetti. Come on, guys. I know you wanted another one. Another David Yannetti law firm advertisement. We got Boston. We got his great coat. We got his ugly curtains. No candy on the desk this time. Ugly curtains are back. The trophy for his world famous closing argument that he won in the Battle of the Lawyers. Okay, do you want to know when he made that closing argument? Does anyone want to guess in his famous closing argument? Does anyone want to guess what year he made it? So I'm just gonna wait for the chat to catch up. What year do you think David Yannetti gave that world famous? Yes. How do you know? Did you cheat? Free Poggenville? Yes, exactly. That was no fun. 1998. He made it in 1998. You got it. You win the prize. Oh, he's still talk about resting on your laurels. You need to make another award-winning closing argument, David Yannetti. Maybe this is your chance in the Karen Reed trial. Beat him. That whole playing the dash cam and telling the witnesses what to hear by Alan Jackson. Yeah, I likened it to what is it called? A ghost box? Was crazy. That was clearly leading and trying to insert his own interpretation as evidence. And yeah, that's what Jennifer Coffindoffer was saying. She was saying, is there going to be a juror, because our memories are so elastic, to remember that the police officer Sarif thought that he heard that because Alan Jackson said, "Oh, you heard that?" And he was like, "No, I heard nothing." But our memories sometimes are elastic, erroneous. So yeah. Thanks, Tim. All right, here we are. We're back. We got beautiful Boston. We got snow. We got his awesome coat and his ugly curtains.
When clients first call our office, they are scared. They do not know what's going to happen to them, and they feel out of control.
But we calm them down. We say, "Don't worry, we're going to start a harassment campaign." You know that great family that loved you and treated you like one of their own? We're going to go after them. We're going to boo them. We're going to get people to boo them and harass them and call and accuse them of the worst crimes. Don't worry about it. You're nervous now. Have a Jolly Rancher. Sit back, relax. We got a blogger on the line and a harassment campaign for you.
The stakes are often as high as they possibly could be. Someone in jeopardy of potentially losing their freedom.
I feel fortunate working with a firm that our clients' emergencies become our emergencies.
Our job at the Yannetti Law Firm is to get our clients the best result.
And doing everything we possibly can to guide clients through sometimes the most challenging confrontation that they've ever had to deal with in their lives.
To provide the best criminal defense representation that is available anywhere.
To make them realize that their mistake is not going to define them, that they are going to.
Did you just hear it? So that's David Yannetti's sister who works at the firm. She started out as working with victims, and now she's with David Yannetti's law firm. So she's like, their mistakes aren't going to define them. I know you did it, but it's not going to define you because we're going to get you out of it. Hey, Mira, gas money for Grant's trip to court. Okay. All right. Thanks, Mira.
Move beyond this.
We are a team of former prosecutors. We are all battle tested with years of experience. We are always looking forward to the next challenge.
Our combined experience makes us unique.
I come to work every day with the motto that I am here to help.
We bring a team approach to our practice. We rely on one another in order to get the information and the strategy that we know is going to achieve the best possible outcome for our clients.
We work as one cohesive team, thinking about cases, strategizing, investigating, preparing, and researching our cases. We simply do what needs to be done.
Oh, I misspoke. Now they're out in they're so bad ass that they don't even have to wear coats outside in the snow. They just walk out. There's no coat here. Sorry, I guess he's wearing the coat in the beginning. It's a really nice coat. They're all going to wear black and almost like something from who am I thinking of? Pulp Fiction kind of film. The one he did for Pulp Fiction. Help me. You know that film? Mr. Pink. That one. Like they're walking out of that. Crazy. Ridiculous. Hey, Barb. Hey. My daughter and her husband are both attorneys. Oh, so they're at least two good lawyers. Thank you. My daughter's on her way to becoming a federal judge. Wow. And I'm really proud. Yeah, you should be. Yeah. Yeah, I've interviewed a lot of lawyers. And what's interesting, I think, was David McKenzie. So lawyer in Oklahoma, represented Julius Jones. Reservoir Dogs, thank you, Society page. Thank you, everybody. I see you guys. Thank you. Thank you all. I just had a mental block there for a second. Yeah, they're like the lawyer version of Reservoir Dogs. I really enjoy his commercials. David Yannetti had always a fun moment. But you should be very proud. But what David McKenzie said was he was just really shocked by some of these strategies to try these cases, especially the Julius Jones case, in the media and to misrepresent the record so thoroughly. And he was saying, as a lawyer, we can't lie, cheat, or steal. And this is what they're doing and getting away with. And there doesn't seem to be anyone pulling back the reins on these kind of media campaigns. And there's a reason why they do it in the media and not the court, although they do throw down a lot of nonsense in the court. But they'll say things like, all we need is DNA testing. So this was an Innocence Project case of Julius Jones, Oklahoma case, murder of Paul Howe. Really tragic case. The Howe family reminds me a lot of the the O'Keefe family. And that case, Paul Howe case, I mean, they were saying all we have to do is test the bandana to exonerate him. Then they test it, comes back with his evidence, his DNA on the bandana. And they just keep pushing innocence. They don't walk away. So the Innocence Project often does not walk away when their client is implicated with the DNA. So many cases. Look at Rodney Reed, Julius Jones. Oh gosh, I could go on and on and on and on. There's so many of them. Purvis Payne, there's another one.
All right.
Kevin Cooper, there's another one. All tested the DNA, all came back with their client's DNA. So they're reviewing day 2 of the trial. This is Vinnie Politan, who has done some of Karen Reed's bidding. And Kevin from Yellow Cottage Tale seems to be everywhere.
We've got some great guests joining us. And of course, with me, Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson. And also joining me tonight here is Kevin Lanahan, Yellow Cottage Tales YouTube creator, has been covering this story in depth. So great to have you both here.
Thank you.
Matt, you've both have been to the scene, obviously. Yep. But Matt, your thoughts about the scene in general?
Well, it's
Hey, Mira Hardy, you're the best, Roberta. Great show, as always. Thank you.
being talked about so much today, and it was so critical in the first 2 days of the test.
Hey, Jane's World, happy birthday to you. I hope it was a good one. Jane's World 2. Nice to see you here. I hope you had a good birthday.
Testimony. You know, you see the scene in photographs, but being there, and remember, this jury is going to do a jury view. And they
need to do that jury view.
They're going to see that there is no curb there. They're going to see that distance that you were pointing out. And they've already seen the video that was really played over and over again today. And when they were talking about Jennifer McCabe there, along with Carrie Roberts, and their demeanor there at the scene, and what was used, there was a snowblower used, and then they played the video over and over again, trying to, in cross, Alan Jackson was trying to bring out what he believes Karen Reed said through the witness, the first responder. Let's take a listen.
Officer Sheriff, I want to focus your attention, if you wouldn't mind, on 9 seconds after you say what happened. Just count in your head and listen very, very carefully to the woman's voice that responds and what she says. Go ahead. Very, very hard to hear. Have you listened to that before?
No.
Does it appear to you that she said, my boyfriend, I left him and he never came home?
I couldn't understand anything.
Please listen to, there's a din of noise, obviously, road noise, wind noise, etc. It's your dash cam, the audio from your dash cam. Once you close the door, listen very carefully, about 9 seconds after you say what happened, or a woman's voice, and see if you can make out what that voice says. Sure.
If you play it backwards, it says Paul is dead.
Stop. Did you hear? I left him and he never came home.
I couldn't understand what they were saying.
You couldn't understand that?
No.
And Vinny, Judge Canoni, she cut him off when Alan Jackson asked for the jury.
I booted her. Okay, thank you. So jury sees public dash cam. I don't hear that. Do you guys hear that?
To hear it a third time. Court TV has a crew in that room, and we were hearing that, you know, some of the jurors were leaning in, trying to get a better listen. I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't become like another argument in a trial that we covered, the Murdoch situation. I did them so wrong. Right. They did them so wrong.
Right. Kevin, your thoughts about that? Does this sound? I mean, I was listening and listening again today, putting headphones on, trying to figure it out. I couldn't make it out.
I couldn't make it out either, and just I don't know if you want to rewind that a little bit. For the other thing I noticed from yesterday from Officer Sharaf's dash cam video, and one of the things the state made a big deal about in the charging document is that Kerry and Jen could not understand how Karen could see John lying there in the snow, and I wasn't really sure about how that would be. But then seeing the dash cam video, it's really dark there. And that's even with Sharaf putting on his spotlight a couple of blocks before. Which
they wouldn't have.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have when they're pulling up. And that was one of the reasons they charged her with murder, because they don't believe that she just saw him. They believe she knew that she was there. Okay, another big part, Matt, is Karen Reed's demeanor.
That's really being debated with all of the first responders on the scene. I mean, you have police officers saying one thing, you have fire medics saying another thing, and was she perhaps suicidal? You know, there was allegations of that. We have some clips that I wanted you to hear, and we can talk about it.
She was screaming, is that my boyfriend? Is he dead?
When you say screaming in a fairly loud voice, correct?
Very, very loud, yes.
And as far as that sort of phraseology, as far as is he dead, how many times was that something she said? Once, more than once, or something?
Repeated many times.
Now, as far as Ms. Reed, the defendant, is concerned, what, if anything else, did you observe as far as her saying or her demeanor or anything like that?
Just the screams and she was very distraught.
All right, so I'm listening to those screams. I mean, to me, what does that tell us? What does it tell you, Kevin? Anything?
I don't think it really tells us anything, although I think it's going to have a powerful impact in the jury, though, because we're going to hear 5 firefighters and at least 1 officer say she was repeating, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. So I don't know exactly what that means. Was she just distraught or confused? And what we're seeing now is this really strange thing where the defense is hammering Jen McCabe. They're really
they're going after Jen.
They're
McCabe.
turning this to Jen versus Karen, right? And if the jury is not going to believe that Jen McCabe is some kind of arch villain, Lex Luthor combined with Hannibal Lecter, I don't know how they're going to sell this to a jury. And so I don't, you know, what that screaming was at the scene, I think it's hard to read into it.
And there was testimony about that today.
You know, I think it actually helps the defense when you have a hysterical loved one at the scene.
That's how you expect them to
That's how
act.
you can interpret it, you know, and then maybe, you know, those suicidal...
Right, but they said that with the... Does anybody remember Michael Peterson, the staircase case? Does anybody remember that? Where they said, oh, he's so hysterical in the 911 call. He's so upset. These people do make a scene. Right?
What was she saying that was suicidal? We didn't get an explanation in that either. You know, I think that this left more questions, possibly, than answers.
And Kevin was mentioning that contrast between Jennifer McCabe and Karen Reed.
Kathy Chapin, thanks for the super sticker.
Let's take a listen to some testimony regarding that.
You did notice.
What I also love is the conditions of these defense tapes. They're like, it's just a little flurries, guys, just a little flurries. And there's like a nor'easter. It's a total nor'easter.
That she was absolutely hysterical.
Yes.
She was completely distraught.
Yes.
She appeared to be in shock.
Yes.
And there was a contrast between that demeanor that you observed with regard to Karen Reed and the demeanor of one of the other women on scene, Jennifer McCabe. Was there not?
Can you kind of explain further?
Sure. Karen Reed was screaming, correct?
Yes.
She was yelling, correct?
Yes.
She was hysterical and distraught, correct?
Yes.
Jennifer McCabe was not.
Correct.
And that's the contrast, Matt, right? You're talking about Jennifer McCabe, seemingly cool as a cucumber.
Who is Jennifer McCabe? Well, it was pointed out today to the jury that she's the sister of the woman that owns the house.
So I think you're right on here with what her role will be, how the jury perceives this woman, Jennifer McCabe, because I've heard it many times on many podcasts and other places. She's in the middle of all of this, right? And the folks that are supporting Karen Reed believe she's the villain.
I'm actually stunned to see the defense going this far down this road to where they're calling her a liar already, and they're trying to question her actions at the scene, and they're going as far to make her this kind of sociopathic villain that it's really hard to believe that she could be that way. So if she goes on the stand and doesn't come across as that kind of an arch villain, it blows the whole defense.
Right. Have we ever seen a trial with so many likable witnesses? Think back to Charlie Adelson's trial. Think about the witnesses we had there. Katie, Luis Rivera, not the greatest bunch of people. Here we have like one great person after another. Mr. Paramedic, great guy. Cop, didn't seem so bad. Okay, so he didn't write down what she said. I don't know if anybody was looking at this like an event, what it eventually turned out to be. I don't know exactly when they write those reports. And I'm not exactly sure what do you have to write every single thing that you heard? And I know that they hate writing those reports. That's one thing I know. So, I mean, Aaron was so likable. Paul O'Keefe, so likable. Have we ever seen, so they really tried to smear Jen McCabe. It could be disastrous for them. Right. I mean, this is like some of the best witnesses I've seen in a trial. Some of the most believable. I'm not doubting their memory. I'm not doubting their honesty. It's really hard to believe. You know what this defense reminds me of? Really reminds me of Robert Durst's defense. And Court TV was saying all through that trial, they're doing so great. He's getting off. The jinx, this won't break the jinx curse. They just can't get this guy. He's too rich. His team is too good. They all feel so sorry for him. He has the public behind him. Same kind of stuff. That jury convicted, and it was quick. It was quick, and that was a long trial. Long trial. Months.
And strategy, and risk turning off the jury.
But that cross-examination, that's probably one of the big moments in this case for the defense will be Jennifer McCabe on the stand and either Alan Jackson or David Yannetti trying to bring that out. Because we know the direct will be soft. It will be, just tell us what you saw, what you heard, and it'll be predictable, but that won't be.
And she was brought up in a different way today.
How?
Through the video.
Oh, through the video. Absolutely.
And that was also, I just wanted to fill a little bit on that. So in that video there, what they don't tell you is the time. So it's 6:30.
My video is acting weird today. So they made a big deal. The defense made a big deal that Jen McCabe walked towards the house. Basically, the defense was saying because they didn't rope off all houses in a 2-mile radius and interrogate everybody in the house at 6 a.m. or whatever, that it was a terrible investigation. So it's really important that they say Jen McCabe was going to talk to the other witnesses in the house. She was going to his house, guys, come on. But he was already long gone. It's really an important point. Latin Racan, she had so much space in the driveway, but inclined to get as close as possible John's ring system recorded 15 events from 6 p.m. the night he was deceased through 6 a.m. from when he was found. She had so much space in the driveway, but felt inclined to get as close as possible. Oh, so you're saying she tried to make it look, yeah, maybe. That's very crafty because, yeah, she does have that automatic braking on that car. I've never owned such a fancy car. I live in Manhattan. I wouldn't know. I haven't owned a car since college. But, yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Thank you. Yeah.
In the ambulance on the way to the hospital, possibly even at the hospital. Okay, it's 6:34. And they stop it right before she goes in the house. But she goes into the house and up to the second floor and wakes up her sister and Brian Albert. And so
they're asleep.
They're asleep, and that's why she went into the house at that time. But they give you the impression, during the defense does, that they're going in that she's.
Come on, guys! Another shot of just a few flurries, some light flurries, guys. Just the kind that maybe like David Yannetti might go out in and film for another commercial in, just walking around without his coat. I mean, what are they talking? Look at this snow. I'm wondering if these people saying just a few flurries, do they live in the South? Have they been in snow? Do they know what a snowstorm looks like? This is what a serious with serious winds looks like. Not good seeing conditions. Everyone's like, oh, all the free Karen Reed people. It was so weird. Guys, it was so weird that nobody saw him. No one saw him in this like really completely unlit area, wearing dark clothing in an area you never look for a human being in your life. Even when the officer put his light on, it was in good condition. I love this what if, how come? It's like a child. How come they didn't do this? How come, where's the other shoe? How come no one saw them? How come no one woke up? How come? How come? How come? That's not an exonerating argument, guys. The how come. Because it happened the way it happened. Because that's life. Sometimes people miss things. We're not robots. We're not, sometimes what you think is the most obvious thing, sometimes there's really good explanations. How come not? How come not? How come they didn't see him? It was a blizzard. It was dark. They had been up partying. That's why everyone slept through it. The snow, also, have you ever been in a snowstorm? Like when it snows in the city, hold on a second. Sorry, I'm getting excited here. When it snows in the city, it really quiets the whole city down. You don't hear things like it's like almost like it insulates, like a big, if you heard a blanket of snow, right? It kind of insulates things. You know, it's just like really, there's not as much traffic. Everything is kind of quieted down. You're not inclined to get up and look out your window and want to go out and go check things out, even if you did see some flashing lights, especially after a night of drinking.
Sneaking away to go in there while everybody's trying to save John at the scene, and that's not the case. John is gone.
He's gone already, taken by the EMTs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk about the cover-up.
Yeah.
The allegations today, what did we hear?
Well, I mean, that is the juxt of all of that, you know, what you were just describing and what the defense was pointing out. It was almost a mic drop, jaw drop moment, I think, if people weren't familiar with that part of the case. Because the way that the defense pointed it out was, take a look at this video here, and then the dueling dash cam, take a look at the video here, and you see this person dressed like Jen McKay walk up to the house, and they didn't explain it the way that you did. Right. The state didn't, the Commonwealth.
That's a good point.
But they said this.
Let's take a listen.
And now I'm going to ask to draw your attention to that car with snow on it. Pay special attention to that car as the film continues to run. Go ahead. Pause. Do you see a person standing in front of the car?
Come on, don't you see a person standing in front of the car? Didn't you just recognize that person by sight? Can't you just tell the facial features? You didn't identify them right away? What? Come on, guys. This is so. It's what's interesting in this case is that things that the defense thinks are exonerating are actually also really damning, because it's supposed to be this really exonerating tape for the defense. Defense is showing it, and it's so damning just because of the conditions. Latin Rican, we can't confirm or deny if John's car was in that same location until she had to leave at 5:08. If she went to 34 Fairview before getting to Jennifer's, game over for Karen. Yeah, that's the allegation, is that she went even earlier, I think, isn't it, at 4:30? But the defense says they're going to have their own snowplow witness. I don't know if it's the same witness. I don't know if it's the same witness statement or another snowplow driver. Don't know, but said that he saw Karen's car. He was driving by another road and he saw Karen, what looked to be Karen's car, parked on the side of the road, exactly where they found John O'Keefe around 4:30. Meaning the implication is that she went back to the scene, saw what the situation was, and went to collect the friends for discovery, just the way someone calls 911 to inform, not really for help, right? Has to be kind of found.
It appears to be
look
person,
like something else. Walking from right to left?
Yes.
Would that be toward the house?
Yes, it would be.
Okay. And also, if you wouldn't mind switching your perspective, now you're looking more at the front of the house. Continue watching the film and see if you see that same person walking toward the house. Stop. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see. Oh, yes. I saw the shadow, yes.
Right. Shadow of a person walking toward the front of the house.
Yes.
That was Jennifer McCabe going into the house, wasn't it?
I have no idea.
Would you think that a witness at a homicide scene being allowed to go into a house to make contact with other witnesses?
I didn't know it was a homicide scene, sir.
If I could finish my question.
Yeah, but I love this. This cop is Officer Sarif is just taking no crap from Alan Jackson. He's like, could you rephrase? I'm not sure I understand, playing dumb. They teach these cops not to get pulled into, not to be manipulated, not to get fooled by these kind of tricks on the stand, so they don't say something that they don't mean. Okay? I know someone's going to take that the wrong way. But how to testify truthfully, stick by your statements, not get pulled into some lawyering tricks.
Do you think it's appropriate for a witness at a potential homicide scene, an unconscious person scene, whatever, crime scene?
Yes.
To make contact with other witnesses and begin discussing the situation unsupervised?
Can you rephrase that question, sir?
Do you think that's an appropriate thing to have happen?
I have no answer for that, sir. I don't know what you're asking.
Officer Serif, when you go to a crime scene,
yes, sir,
one of the first things that you'd want to do is secure the scene and separate witnesses so that interviews could be conducted, correct?
Sure.
You wouldn't want witnesses just cavorting together and getting their story straight, right?
Correct.
You'd want to avoid that at all costs,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And why is that?
So they can't collaborate their story.
And what's interesting is, what is the scene? Is the scene the front yard? Is it the front yard and the house? I guess that's the big question. We're out of time for tonight, but Kevin Lanahan, great to have you here. We'll speak to you again. Matt Johnson, working hard every day.
Trying.
Yeah, they were great. Especially Kevin came with a heavy hitting information. He's great on TV. That's really hard to do. I know he makes it look super easy, but it's really hard to sit like that and just have a conversation and look natural. He makes it look very easy, and relay the relay the information very naturally. All right. I'm going to take a quick break. How are you guys feeling? I'm just going to look at Jennifer Coffindeffer's stuff. If I had a little bit, I need to get a Twitter. I hope are you up for a little bit more? I hope so. All right. I'm going to take a quick break. Let me know how you're feeling the back. If not, we can come back tomorrow and do it. But I'm going to take a quick break and see you back in about 36 seconds. Don't go anywhere. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. All right. Hope you're up for a little bit more. This is Jennifer Coffindeffer from Breaking the Case. She had some interesting things to say.
Hey, true crimers. I wanted to talk today a little bit about the Karen Read trial. There is no trial today.
What happened to her awesome? I just saw she had an awesome new intro. Is it not on this video? Huh. She's got an awesome new video for intro for her channel. Really, I don't know if she did it herself. I was jealous. I'm such a novice editor. She does I'm sure she does all. I don't know if she did it herself, but it looked like professionally done.
It will begin again tomorrow, and it was a very short day yesterday. I featured it live, the stream, in the evening time, and so hopefully some of you had a chance to catch that. But I thought it was important to, as we're going through the trial, watching it, just to recap a little bit of the testimony. And specifically, I'm just going day by day and person by person, for the most part, to summarize what was said, impressions, and really to also get your thoughts. So let's talk about paramedic Natale, who's with the Canton Police Department. His background as a EMT and then as a paramedic, in my view, I took him.
Yeah, I have a real treat, by the way. For those interested in statement analysis, I have someone who's studying statement analysis who sent me their statement analysis of Karen Read's statements. Super interesting. I think I'm going to save it for tomorrow. But boy, does she tell on herself. Thanks, Latin Rican. Her father said she struck something. Felt and struck are 2 points of contact. The driveway shows one disputable point of contact. Why didn't she get out to see what she struck? Right. She's completely disinterested. And that's also another point that the O'Keefe family make. And this is something that we talked about in the Adelson case, that Wendy Adelson had no interest in what happened to Dan Markel. So I know some of you who just followed this case might be a little confused, but I'm just trying to make a little parallel with some of the other cases. When these people in these true crime stories or the accused has no interest in what happened. She never asked what happened to him. She only asked, is he alive? Because she knew. When you don't ask, when you don't have curiosity, it's because she already knew what happened because she did it. So for all those people saying she was like in a blackout, I don't think that was the case here. Yeah, that's a really interesting point, Latin, about the points of contact.
As being absolutely not only credible, but very professional, as well as just an overall honest person, a person that's committed his life to serving others, to saving lives. And that's pretty heroic. He received his EMT license when he was only in high school. That's when he first started pursuing. And that, I can tell you, is no easy feat. I went through EMT school at Methodist Hospital in Dallas. It took me 6 months to complete my program. I worked on what they call the C shift, the fire department shift. I was assigned to the right in the heart of South Dallas, the worst part of Dallas, to do my rotations on the ambulance, and then worked at Methodist Hospital, which was at that time a high-level trauma unit. And it was just, it's really hard. Every 2 years, as he mentioned on the stand, you also have to recertify, which means taking all that testing all over again. For me, I was certified in 1999 and have kept my certification and retest every 2 years. So this particular testimony was really important for me.
That's super interesting. I would not have thought that Jennifer Coffindaffer was an EMT. I just wouldn't think of it. Reminded me in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, she became a helicopter pilot so that she could get people on and off the island, right? Without anyone knowing. But that's something you have to do as a helicopter pilot. It's like one or every 2 or 1 year, maybe every year. It's a lot. You have to do a 6-week training course, redo it. So EMT every 2 years. Jennifer Coffindaffer still has her EMT license. Pretty cool.
To hear what the medics and the EMS personnel on scene had to say. He was terrific. What was disappointing, very disappointing again, and I'm not trying to crucify Lally. Lally has a tough job. He got a case that should have been a routine hit and run case done. And unfortunately, it just really, this case really blew up. It was nothing short of...
It really blew up, and it had nothing to do with the fact that Karen Reed was spending $3,000 on a PR agent. $3,000 a month. That's what her friend gave an interview and said. Which is amazing, not unusual to those who've been following my channel. West Memphis 3 had Lonnie Surrey. Also, Marty Tankliff, also represented by the same PR agent. And it worked with those guys. And they were convicted at that time of some of the worst crimes. Just get a PR agency and start an innocence campaign. So they do these things because they work.
Sneaky, strategic, smart, if you want to get your client off, to do everything they did by getting a blogger on board, by attempting to taint the jury pool, by everything they did to really put negative press regarding this case out into the media so it could spread far and wide and really pull everyone's attention away from the actual fact base that is contained in the actual court documents. But now we're finally getting to see some of that come out. And in this testimony of paramedic Natale, he does a great job not only laying out his background, which was so impressive, as even Jackson said, but he also laid out what he did that day. He was performing whenever you're in the medical industry as a first responder out on scene, you think of the ABCs. essentially, you have to make sure that person has an airway. You have to make sure they're breathing, and you have to make sure that their cardio is working. In other words, their heart. But we just use that acronym to help remind us the number one priorities. And they had 2 people doing just that, working on resuscitation. Nettle says when he came up on the scene, Karen Reed, none of the girls, he calls them the girls, none of them were doing anything. They were circling around kind of in a frenzy. So
He used the word agitated, which I thought was really interesting. His paramedic, that they were in an agitated state.
So he never saw Karen Reed laying on top of John O'Keefe and giving her CPR. Not trying to say she didn't, because I think that's going to come out.
By the way, if you want to watch these clips uninterrupted, everything I use is in the show notes in the episode description.
It already came out that she did, according to one of the police officers, and I think Jim McCabe, as well as Carrie Roberts, in their testimony, is going to talk more about that. So I have no doubt that she tried to resuscitate him in front of an audience where everybody was at. I think she was hysterical. I think she did make what we call in the business spontaneous utterances. And that included saying what one police officer said she said, which was, "It's my fault. It's my fault. I hit him. I hit him. I hit him." It's interesting that, and it's not interesting, it's normal. Different witnesses are going to remember different things. Why? Because as police officer Seraph said, he went in and out of his vehicle. He's focused on a completely different purpose out there. I think, thankfully, for all the people that said, "Oh."
This is a really interesting defense point that they use, where they say, well, you said this here. Who tells the same story? Tell one story and tell me if you don't tell another person the same story, and tell me if you include all the same details every single time. But you said this, but you didn't say it to Proctor, but you didn't say it to here. Doesn't mean you're making it up. It's a very human thing. It's in fact probably a sign of being more rehearsed if you tell the same exact stories with exactly the same emphasis on detail every time. We don't have memories like that. They're very, like I said, very elastic. And also depends on who we're telling and why we're telling it.
Oh, it was barely snowing, or there was no snow on the ground throughout this whole thing. You're seeing the live body cam footage to show it was a hot mess out there in terms of a blizzard. I think it also shows that, oh my gosh, how did she even see his body? I think we're going to hear from Jim McCabe and Carrie Roberts when they say, we didn't see a body out there. You heard the paramedics say, I didn't immediately see the body. You heard the police officer say he had one of those big white lights, that put out so many lumens, and that he was able to see a body. So I think without that apparatus, it would be impossible to see a body unless you knew where that body was. And of course, we're going to hear about her going by apparently that house at 5:08 in the morning before she ever picked up Jim McCabe and ever picked up Carrie. So it's interesting, though, focusing back on the paramedics' recollection. He remembers everything. He's so good. He knows who was out there in terms of his staff. He knows what engines were out there. He doesn't even have to refer to a report. He remembers. He is a bright guy. And the only area that, to me, he didn't remember perfectly well that Jackson jumped on was what John O'Keefe was clothed in. He said he remembered him having layers. He remembered him being appropriately dressed. He remembers a coat. And Jackson jumps right on that, right? He says, well, he doesn't have a coat. So you really don't remember. Well, because a person doesn't remember specifically, about the coat versus the hoodie, that light hoodie he wore. It's just not an issue. His full-on responsibility was John O'Keefe and trying to save John O'Keefe's life. It made
Yeah, and the fact that he had to clean John O'Keefe's airwaves so much makes you think, was Karen Reed doing some kind of performative CPR on John and not real CPR?
made sense to me. He doesn't know exactly what shoes he had on, exactly what these are very hectic situations for any of you who've served on an ambulance and you come upon somebody. My first ever ambulance as an EMT, I came upon a woman who was stabbed. And it was so weird to be in the shoes of a medical personnel as opposed to an FBI agent. Even though I was an FBI agent at the time training for my SWAT medic, oh my gosh, I was thinking, oh my goodness, people touched the knife because the knife was left on scene. They were, picking it up and throwing it out of the way. It was manic. The people that were her friends that were there, that were screaming and running all around. You're doing everything in your ability to stay focused on what you're there to do, and that is to save a life. But that doesn't mean you don't question. You have to question. I remember saying, who did this? And I remember somebody saying, the boyfriend. I remember all of that. Now, when you do a run report, it's not like when you're an officer. You're writing the medical information. And this is the point that drove me crazy that Lally did not bring home. He needed to ask that officer or that paramedic, listen, when you respond on scene, do you usually write down what bystanders say or what information? No, you're paying attention not from an investigation standpoint. You're paying attention from the medical standpoint. That's why he asked that question.
It's a really good point she's making here. And I hope that Lolly's paying attention. And this is a good point for closing argument. Really good point. You hope that they may be watching some of these things and listening and getting ideas. Because that's a really important point. The paramedic, it's about the patient's condition. It's not all about you. It's not all about you, Karen Reed.
Anyone know her or know him? Does anyone know this person laying here and what happened? I hit him. Now you know what we call the mechanism of injury, how this person was hurt. Now you know what that mechanism of injury was, a vehicle. So now you know you are dealing with likely very severe internal injuries. Very severe. He said people said, oh, he didn't have frostbite. Well, he told you his nose was white and his fingers were white. That's because he had zero perfusion, blood flowing to those areas anymore, which is what causes frostbite. Frostbite is when your blood doesn't circulate and then they end up turning white and then they end up turning black and then they fall off because they haven't been properly perfused or blood hasn't gone into those areas. And he doesn't use the word frostbite. What he uses the words or the explanation is they were cold, they were already rigid, basically frozen, the coloration. Those are the words you use when you're talking as a medical person. And so I very much related to his descriptions and to how good this guy was staying focused. And that hopefully, now you understand why he even said, does anybody know him? Because they're trying to figure out, did these people just drive by on this morning and happen to see the body, or why are they out here? And then when he hears, I hit him, he knows now what he's dealing with, how this man came to be in this condition on the ground. So I thought his testimony was great. I really hope that the jury, again, can
Sorry about that, guys. Is it glitchy for you? Is this video glitchy? Should I boot it out? Where am I? Am I 12:57? I'm going to boot it out and see if I can put it back in and kick some things out of here and see if it gets a little bit better. Hold on one second, guys.
Our salesman. Hey, everybody, look over here. Isn't this shiny? Oh, wouldn't you say this?
It's the same thing I said about Alan Jackson, like very sleazy, used car salesman, same thing. I use the same same exact expression to describe him. We're thinking the same, Jen. We're thinking the same. Thanks, Latin. Rakan, how could she immediately locate him on that lawn? The officer had to use his cruiser light. Great point. In order to see them when he got there. Hold on one second. Sorry, guys. Hold on one second. Let me go back up. There's only one way she could have seen him from that night. Right. Because she knew where he was. That's what that implies. There's a lot of evidence that implies other things, and I don't know if people are picking up on. It's a really important point. As soon as she got to the tree line, she started to scream and get hysterical. And we talked about that with Wendy Adelson and her police interrogation, back again to Wendy. But when people go from all of a sudden to very calm to all of a sudden very hysterical, that's not normal, right? It's not normal because no one else could see him in those conditions. It's almost like she knew what she was going to find.
This works great. Oh, gosh, don't you want this car? That is what Jackson does when they are on the stand. Isn't it true that you said this? Isn't it true you saw this? Isn't it true this? I've never seen anything like this. These are objectionable. You can't tell the witness what to say, what he saw. You're not testifying. Not in this trial. In this trial, Jackson is testifying. Jackson makes the statements, and then he turns to the witness and says, isn't that right? Correct, right? Correct. And while that is effective, hopefully.
We just saw the cop do his own action, leading. Can you rephrase that? I'm not going to answer that leading question. Can you rephrase that for me? That's what happened there. You have to ask me a real question, not a leading question.
I'm just hoping these jurors can see right through that slick snake oil salesman delivery, what's happening. And I also hope what they could see is no matter how ill-prepared police officer Seraph was, because he didn't study the reports, he just let Jackson feed him and shook his head, and that the prosecutor did a deplorable job objecting to leading the witness. That's all you have to say. Objection, objection to the leading. Let the witness answer. Ask a question. Don't make a statement. What Jackson does is he makes a statement, attributes it to the witness, and says, isn't that correct? That is the definition of leading a witness. You can't do it, but for some reason, Lally is allowing it. And it's so hard to watch as somebody who has sat after trial next to the prosecutor, pushing questions to them, looking at what the witness is or isn't being asked, nudging the prosecutor because they're very busy in trying to keep notes on what's being said, what's being asked. You need that second person there going, wait a minute, objection. It's, I hope they have today off. I hope that they are getting some Lally is getting constructive criticism. And on the defense side, I hope somebody's giving.
But when Lolly was making his objections, a lot of them were being sustained, almost all of them that I saw. So I was happy to see him object.
Giving them constructive criticism because there's a point at which, and Jackson clearly crossed that line when he was telling Officer Seraph what to see and what to hear. Do you hear her saying that's her boyfriend and she left him here, or words to that effect? He's like, no, I don't hear that. Plays it again. Do you hear so now Jackson is testifying, and some jurors, will recall that that's how the officer testified. I'll be interested to see if they ask to play back any of this testimony as jurors, because they're allowed to do that. But
are they allowed to bring their notes into deliberation? They're not, right? No, they are allowed to bring their notes. They just have to destroy them at the end of the trial, right? I would hope so. I hope they're allowed to bring their notes into deliberation. I don't think that this is going to go well. I don't know. You don't know. You never know. Who could have predicted OJ? There's a lot of facts in that case, but that had a political element that Karen Reed doesn't have, but she does have a lot of wild card things because of the press. And I was watching the local press, and it was all so pro Karen Reed after the first day. So they've really liaisoned with the press and getting, she's got so many supporters outside. I'm not so sure. I don't know what so many is. What so many is considered wearing pink.
Jackson testified, and he tries to do it for a third time to push the words, because Jackson knows if I say it enough times, that jury might just believe it, even though it didn't happen. None of us could hear it. I was listening, nothing. He just was making that up. But he tried to get Seraph to say it. And then finally the judge came in and said, whoa, no more. Move on, because she can see that even though the prosecution is not objecting, there's a point at which the manipulation of the attorney takes over and the testimony isn't real anymore, because it's not the testimony of the witness, it's the testimony of the lawyer. And that, unfortunately, is where we're at already. And we've only had just a few witnesses. But I blame that not on the defense. They want to get her off. They're going to do everything. They've gone to the FBI and said, listen, there are issues. They got a blogger on board and other people on board. And I'll tell you, for people, and I hope in the special prosecution against the blogger, which is Aidan Carney, I call him the blogger because that's kind of what he's become known as in this case. He's the blogger. Many people don't even know his name because he renames himself. Nobody knows his real name. That's seldom used. He uses animal names. He uses doctor. He uses Mr. He has all these names. So I call him the blogger because everybody knows who I'm talking about when I say the blogger. So the blogger gets on board with Karen. Again, that's going to be another trial for witness tampering, witness coercion. We already know that case is underway. It's being investigated. Her phones have been seized. His phones were seized. He's already been arrested. They're working on that case. And we'll see if they build that conspiracy. But The interesting piece of information that I heard for the first time yesterday was Karen Reed's mother was recorded. And Karen Reed's mother loves the blogger. She talks about him. Did you?
So she's talking about Turtle Boy here. She loves this. Her family loves this. This is the Reed family. They love what he's doing. They love his style. And we heard from Paul O'Keefe the way they came in like an army to get her stuff immediately as they were telling basically what essentially John O'Keefe's kids, the news. They have this invasion of her family. They don't talk to anyone. They don't show sympathy. They just get what theirs is. That's who that family is. People reveal themselves by their actions. And then Karen Reed never talks to anyone again. And for all these Adelson supporters saying, I don't know why you're going this way on this case. What's so wrong? Karen did the same exact thing Wendy Adelson did. Never talked to the family again. She walked out. May have to do a show on it. Same exact MO, because she knows that she's the one responsible. She doesn't want to look them in the eye anymore. She doesn't want to deal with, I don't even know if she does feel guilt, but the discomfort, let's call it that, the discomfort of having to deal with a family and they're no longer useful to her. She's gotten over on the person that was going to leave her or humiliate her. She can't seem to handle public humiliation, Karen Reed. Very much like Wendy Adelson.
Hear the blogger do this and do that. Oh, he's so great. That's about how she says it too. I'm not just. Anyway, my point to this is we've known how involved the defense team and the blogger and the defendant have been in creating this menagerie. And now we know that even the parents knew about it. For me, as a victim's advocate, someone who never knew any players in this case, nothing about this case until I received 2 DMs from 2 separate people on Twitter X asking me, will you look into this case? And again, when you look into a case, the number one place I always start is I just look at the court documents. What are the filings on?
Yeah, they picked the wrong one. They thought Jed was going to be like, oh, let me go to the Turtle Boy blog and find out the facts and then get all riled up. Oh, the FBI is looking into this? I work for the FBI. We're looking into this? Never mind that it's alleged to be started by Karen Reed herself. They went to the wrong expert. They're always looking for experts, people with impressive credentials to give their campaign some gravitas. So for Amanda Knox, it was Jim Clemente. In my opinion, misrepresented the facts. I mean, that's just a fact. Come sue me, Jim Clemente. Come sue me for that. You lied. You lied. You lied in that case. You and Moore, another ex-FBI, Steve Moore, lied for Amanda Knox. Lied your head off for her publicly. And never would debate with anyone who would set the facts straight. Because they don't. They only talk amongst themselves. Because they're bullies, these people. They won't sit down at the table and discuss it. They won't discuss a difference of opinion because they'll be blown out of the water. What happened? Look at what happened when Yellow Cottage Tales held this debate. No one from Karen Reed's side came, and you all think she's got a good case? That's not what you do when you have a great case of innocence. You're dying to get the word out. Thanks, Michael, for the super sticker. Appreciate it. But Jen is just in my opinion, Jen Coffindaffer here is just bewildered that there's a family like that. This is this heartless, that this is this cruel, and would approve of the treatment of the O'Keefe family and the treatment of witnesses. Imagine being a witness in a case. You didn't choose that. You don't want that. Who would want that for themselves? Be a witness in a high-profile case besides Kayla Kalin. Okay? No one wants that. And Pumpkin Pie. And Pumpkin Pie, remember her? Besides those two witnesses, most witnesses don't want to be witnesses. They don't want to be there. They don't want to be involved. They don't like the public attention and scrutiny. And you can see the way that they're dragged on social media in the comment section, from their looks to their weight to their teeth to their hair to their outfit. They don't want to be there. They don't want to do this. And then just forget the harassment of themselves and their family and be accused of the worst crimes. Who would want that?
Side. What are the facts? Because in the court documents, it'll have facts. It'll have excerpts from witnesses, and those become fact witnesses. So you have a roadmap as to what evidence exists already. And then you have the defense side of things already. What are they saying? And when I read both and saw, oh my goodness, here's the facts here, and here is the diversion tactics to discredit. I mean, just watching Jackson try, and he had a tough row to hoe, to try to discredit paramedic Natale was going to be very difficult, because no one, I can't believe that anyone watching that trial could possibly think that Natale was lying. That guy didn't have a lying bone in his body. He admitted sorry, I didn't remember the coat. I remembered the layers. I wish the prosecution would have made that even more clear, that your job isn't to inventory clothing. Your job is to get that clothing off, to use your scalpel or whatever you happen to have, your knife, to cut that clothing off, to get it out of your way so you can see the totality of injury. And unfortunately, the prosecution has done a deplorable job kind of driving home the points as to why a witness might not know that, as to why the witness said in the first place, does anyone know him? It's because they need to know this for a medical reason. So it's a little bit disappointing that the prosecution has not dialed down on helping their witnesses get their truth out.
Right, and they gotta put the lid on the nonsense right away, because you just don't want jurors thinking. You know, when I interviewed John Lewin, he said, "I never want any actors or actresses on my jury," and I said, "Why not? Why don't you want any actors or actresses on your jury?" He said, "Because they always want the improbable, the unusual, right? I just want a juror to look at the evidence. That's what you want. You don't want to have them thinking about why this paramedic didn't observe every detail of John O'Keefe's fashion choices down to the letter. And just concentrate on the important evidence. We're not here for these like distractions. It's not central to the case."
And then yet you see the other side really putting their words in the mouths of several of these witnesses and bullying them in many regards. The good news is they're not bullying them about anything important. That paramedic stuck to his guns. She said it. She said it loudly. She said it numerous times. It was the lady with blood on her face, likely from applying CPR before I got here. He didn't waver, and neither did that police officer. The police officer was wrong about a lot of things. I mean, couldn't remember the address, not on this testimony, but another testimony, he was off by one number, 35 versus 34. He was, the reports that were made on his behalf didn't have everything in them. The report he made didn't have everything in them, but he stuck to his guns. He said, this was my fault. That's what Karen Reed said. Will the jury believe it? Or does the jury think that all these people are in cahoots? So that
Right. And they're giving a really improbable story. I mean, even in OJ, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go there. He's pretty overwhelming, but I don't know. You put in, LAPD with all the bad press that they had up to that trial, maybe it was a little bit more probable, but Karen Reed doesn't have any of those. There's no of those political issues, racial issues in this case. The defense has never answered the question why this happened, right? Why there was a conspiracy. And that's really important to any story. So if you need an improbable story, you have to say why it happened. What was the motivation? And I think I'm going to leave it here. I think this is the main points that I wanted you to see from Breaking the Case with Jennifer Coffindaffer. The link is in the description of this video. Let me just pull this for a second, guys. Hold on one second. Oh, wow. I didn't know I could do that. That's even better. I'll do that next time. Okay. Have a great night, everybody. Please hit the like, share this episode, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, or even if you're not listening on Apple Podcasts, leave me a 5-star review. I'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern with another show if my voice can make it. Have a great night, everybody.